speak moron as well as you, but let me try.
What the hell is supposed to do, you moron?
It's a moron. That's not against the law.
Gun! You fucking moron!
Stuff like Batman.
Because he is Batman, you moron.
What are you, a fucking moron? Huh?
You moron. Drop dead. Moron.
Whoa!
Up here, you morons.
Stepping morons like yourself.
Me down, you moron! Hey, moron!
They dived.
So, but that could be anything. Or let's see, is that Cam? Oh no, if Fafana clipped his heel in the box, it could have been a penalty.
Shut up! Contact on the box. At least he contacted to be a penalty hunter.
No, he has. Foot made contact with Achilles.
My God. I was going to say, the way you're sitting, Hunter, makes me think, see when somebody gets a new tattoo, but they want to take an Instagram picture.
No, like, scratching my fucking arm there. That was it.
Get the badge in. Let's get the badge in.
Well, guys, forever the professionals. We've hit the record button. We're 30 seconds in, and you guys are still watching the football. Nice to know.
It's been a long game. It's been a full week of football we've watched.
I know.
I don't have the football on. I'm a consummate professional. I've only focus is this. And caffeine. I've had a can of cola.
Dubs, we might be having to transfer you in for one of these morons then, because they're too engrossed in what's going on in the football to pay attention to the.
Or they've not got their camera on.
Or they've not got their camera on. Not that it matters for a podcast, like, because nobody else actually gets to see us, thankfully.
Or can you not actually watch it? No.
No, we're not in the picture. It's no longer the podcast as you described it as the other day.
Oh well, there you go.
It's far too much work for me to actually edit it together to make a video out of it. So we just you get a podcast and that's it.
You wouldn't need to edit yourself because you've just been a picture for like 45 minutes of it.
I was moved. If I was going to be editing, I'd be pulling the cheeks in a little bit, make myself a bit skinnier, tidying the beard up a bit.
Yeah, but we had John on. He mentioned that we were a lot more handsome than he expected us to be, so we got a wee compliment in there.
That's fucking ended with me being on it though.
Well, if you have listened to the previous episode and you're hearing that strange voice, Dubs has joined us back for a second week of Morons reviewing movies. He obviously loved his experience that much the first time. We couldn't get him to shut up, so he's come back in for a second movie. And this movie that you've selected, this will be your unseen choice, will it, Dubs?
Yeah, I had it. I mean, there wasn't really much theory behind it. I had it queued up and like I checked streaming and I saw that all you guys would be able to see it as well. But the irony of that is that I think there's a lot of connecting things to the previous movie that we discussed to this movie, like just kind of circumstantial things. Which obviously I hadn't seen it before, so I had no idea about that. But we can go into that in more detail.
Absolutely. Well, the movie in question is Manchester by the Sea. A depressed uncle is asked to take care of his teenage nephew after the boy's father dies. So it's been an intense two weeks of movies, guys. One with a lot of thinking in it, and one that wasn't exactly drawing a lot of happiness out when we were watching it. But we are, Dubs, again, you selected the movies. We're going to come to you first. Take it away with your thoughts on Manchester by the Sea.
Yeah, well, starting with what I was referring to previously, like right away, there's like a non-linear like sort of thing about this movie, which obviously sort of is similar to Memento, but not anywhere near as confusing. But I think overall, I think it was a decent enough movie. I thought the performances were really, really strong, particularly with Casey Affleck. I think he won the Oscar for it. And obviously his wife as well, who isn't actually in that many scenes, if you think about it. Really, there's a scene where he kind of goes into the house after he's been out fishing and she's in bed. It's not really mentioned what medical condition that she has. But I
thought she just had the flu, but then they mentioned later on about the air conditioner or something, so she must have.
So were those scenes when obviously, like, we're going to talk about the big massive like incident twist or whatever you want to call it, were those scenes where he was kind of partying with his friends and when she was in bed not well, were those scenes meant to be like really close together in time? I don't know, because
for what I can gather, like only through the fact that he has the dream when he's accidentally forgot about the stuff on the stove later on.
Yeah, and his kids, yeah.
Kind of not growing, but they're both of a toddler age talking.
Yeah.
In the scene where
suppose.
well, one of them's in the cot as a baby, and the
Right,
other one's
yeah.
a bit older. So I think there's a few
No,
years.
no, but there was three kids. There was a baby in a cot,
Mhm.
and then there was 2 girls.
Yeah.
There was actually 3 kids.
So I know that it's definitely before then, but it could have maybe been a week before the fire. I don't know. It could have been very close.
I don't know. It was just when you said that I thought maybe I had missed that part. But again, it's not really made clear. But it kind of, I mean, I don't know. Like, this is one thing that I've noted down is that I don't know. Like, obviously, the massive incident in the movie is that obviously the kids are like killed and like by like a tragic accident. But despite how good Casey's performance was, I struggled to have that much sympathy for him, and I question whether would he actually be able to just walk away from that scot-free. I mean, he himself is expecting that he's going to get some sort of punishment for it, prosecution, and they just went, well, unless something comes up, you're free to go. And he's like, what?
I don't know. Like, would it be similar to if you accidentally left your straighteners on or a candle on in your house burnt down? You would. I don't think you would be criminally liable.
No, because all that happened is basically a log rolled away or something like that. He said that was what he was assuming that happened. And they were like, well, unless we find like that you've fucking set fire to a light or you've put water in a fucking light bulb or something like that, you're free to go. Like, do you know what I mean?
It was more the fact that it seemed as if it was over and done with really quickly, though. You know what I mean? It was just like I don't know how long the actual interview process was. It was maybe a minute and a half or something in the film, and then it's just like, I see you later. That's it. And then obviously, then it's never brought up again. It just that seemed. I'm not saying.
I don't know if they were maybe trying to make the sort of authorities where they were from maybe slightly dim-witted, and then to sort of lead you to have sympathy for him. He stole the cop's gun and tried to like shoot himself with it, as if to say, "Well, I'm not getting punished for this, so I'm just going to take that upon myself to do that." And you should now feel sympathy for me because I realise myself, and he does realise it himself. Do you know what I mean? He admits openly to his nephew, like, I can't beat it. I can't beat it. Like, he doesn't really talk about it that much, and he just says, "There's no way I can stay here." I think I got sidetracked though. Like, I was talking about his wife, Michelle Williams, and that scene where she's in bed. Obviously, she's not really got much to do in that moment because she's meant to be really, really unwell. But then later on, when he meets her, there's that scene where he meets her and she's with her. I don't know if it's a family member or a friend or something like that. I really thought that scene where those two, after the friend goes away, like, she really just stole like that scene, maybe the movie with that, or acting in that moment. Again, I was kind of like, would she be that sympathetic towards him after what had happened? But I mean, their acting was really, really good in that part, I would have said.
That was one thing I was going to ask as well when you mentioned that, Dubs. It's like she's obviously apologising for how she was towards him through the divorce and stuff. Obviously, you don't get to see that, so I just thought that was a bit of a weird thing to actually bring up in the film, because it's like, if you'd saw it and she was like, even the fact that he's unintentionally killed their kids, but she might have obviously been a complete bitch to him, but you don't even hear from her or see her during the film, so I was just like, why even bring that into it? And then it's if
I think the only thing I would say is that, like, you know how hysterical she is when the fire's like blazing, and then the next thing usually is see the body bags. You only saw 2 body bags as well, which I thought was that deliberate or not.
Well, that's what made me think there was only 2 kids.
There's definitely 3, because obviously there's a later scene. There's a later scene where, see, when he's emptying his flat, when he's going to move to Manchester temporarily, he's fucking all his like belongings and boxes and stuff like that. Like, this is just, it's all expendable. And then the pictures, he carefully wraps them in a blanket. I thought that it was interesting. You'd never ever see the pictures. I thought that was quite.
In my mind, I thought
quite clever.
It was one kid each, and the wife was what.
And then obviously, and then his nephew goes into his room at one point, and the pictures are like they're like that on the nightstand. They're not. You can't see them. But I thought that was very, very deliberate that they didn't show the pictures of the kids, because I don't know if they were trying to sort of mirror like his, like, I don't know, he's like trying to forget what they looked like or what they meant to him, but he just couldn't possibly get over it.
Yeah,
I would also think
definitely 3 kids.
3 kids.
Yeah,
definitely
absolutely.
The other thing I was thinking with the pictures and stuff, because it was one of the things I picked up on, is that it might have symbolised the fact that he doesn't let anyone in. Like, he doesn't, he never ever opens himself up to talk about his feelings or talk about
Even anything, obviously, that bit with the other lassie's mum, that he'll not even, like, is engaging, like, how was your day, like, what have you had, like, he'll not even engage in small talk because he's keeping himself so drawn in and recluse.
I think what I'm trying to say about the pictures with it, like, it would have been just, it wouldn't have meant as much if you had just saw him lifting, like the nephew lift the picture and look at the picture of a child. Like, the only time that you saw the children after the fire had happened was when, like you're saying, Daniel, about the dream. And that really, and because it happened so quickly, it was just like, Daddy, and then he just woke up. Like, that really, really, like, touched me, that moment in the movie. Like, because it was, you kind of like liken it to your own like situation, how like panicked you would be in that sort of scenario. But I thought they did that quite well.
Definitely, like, I think they did a lot of things well in this. We've sort of been joking about it in the group chat about this film, but I actually think this is a fucking great film. Like, I think it's a really good. It's probably by far, and I mean by far, the best interpretation of a depressed person I've ever seen in a film. Right? Part of it being that it doesn't have that nice ending where he comes out of it. I would say in 99% of films like this, by the end,
he's like, going to be back with the ex or something.
Yeah, exactly. Back with the ex, or he's rebuilt his relationships through his nephew, and he's going to take over and be the dad that he couldn't be, or like all this sort of stuff. But in reality, in real life, you didn't just snap out of something like that. It doesn't just go away.
No. There's no quick fix.
There's no quick fix. And I think this did an amazing job of showing what it might have actually been like without having that sort of Hollywood twist of everything's okay if you fucking go to church and fucking, or whatever they normally do, right? And I just found that really quite profound. Like, see the way it ends. It's not really got an ending. It doesn't come to a conclusion, really.
No.
It just sort of ends with him carrying on being miserable and depressed.
Morose, yeah.
Aye. So I really enjoyed that part of it. Like, I'll carry on just to expand it a wee bit further. Right? What else I loved about this film was, see, Casey Affleck, I think what he did from an acting point of view, and it seems so simple, right? But he just took a little while to respond every single time anyone spoke to him. Like, every conversation was like a struggle. And like, you sort of felt it. It was a wee bit frustrating watching it. Like, there's loads of silence.
Do you mean, because a lot of his interaction is, there's a lot of interaction at the start of the movie when you see him like doing his sort of humdrum like tasks in his like day job. And then that bit where the woman like sort of has a go at him and he just absolutely just like loses it with her and snaps. Aye, there is a bit there, definitely. It's glaringly obvious where he's just like, for a wee while, he's like, why do I need to deal with this? He's kind of like, how do I respond? He's like, fuck that shit.
He's just got like a switch, obviously, when he gets in the fight with the people at the bar and that too. He's obviously just got something that's building up, or that emotion inside him that he's hiding. And like you said, Daniel, that was one of the things I was going to say about how it's as if the way that it takes a bit of time to speak, because to me it's as if he's trying to close the conversation off, because he's like, if he takes that long with his nephew's girlfriend's mum, is that he's thinking, if I just like, not being a dictator, but if I just like don't give her anything back, she'll eventually just stop speaking to me and I can go into my shell again, which is really what as if he wants to do, because he's that obviously depressed. So I think that's a great point you made.
Aye, it's a good job of painting the picture of what it would be like. He doesn't want to have any of these interactions that he's having. Not one of them, even with his nephew, you can tell he doesn't want to be interacting with anybody.
Yeah.
Because I think if you're severely depressed, it leads to folk just staying in their house and like no getting up.
Yeah, everything's a chore.
Everything's a chore. But now he's got all this responsibility where he's forced into all these interactions all the time, and like he fucking hates it and he can't do anything about it. And I think there's a few little moments where you can see that he wants to be better, but you never get to see him express it. So you've got, it's like, and it might just be the way I'm picking it up, but see little things like early on when he's doing these wee mundane tasks, like you were saying, Dubs, and he's unblocking the woman's toilet, and he overhears that she fancies him.
I know, I've got that at like the top of my notes. Like I'm looking at it right now. Like I thought that was quite, but early on in the film, I found that bizarre. But it's like you're saying, it's obviously just no matter what anybody says to him, if it's insulting or if it's complimentary, just nothing like penetrates. It just doesn't. Do you know what I mean?
Because it takes a wee moment where you're sort of watching him think about it, and instantly, for every movie you've ever watched, you're thinking, "Oh, he's going to go and shag her," and they might be depressed about it after, right? And they would maybe go home and be sad about it, right? That's like happening in that film, but he's got no emotional interest in anything.
Yeah. The only time you see him kick in with that bit of emotional interest is when he thinks that his nephew's going to go back to his mum. Like, I feel like you see a little change in him there where the responsibility that he's got on his shoulders, he really takes that to pride. He wants to honour his brother.
After a time, at first he's like, what the fuck? But it's obviously the thought of moving back to that area rather than like being the guardian of this child who he cares like as much as what he probably cared with his own kids that he incinerated.
And I think incinerated children, a good podcast name.
Yeah.
I think that's purposely by.
Sorry.
Oh, you should. That's good. I think it's purposefully as well to why the film is named after the place. Because, like Dub says, his negative relationship is not with the people.
Yeah, with the town.
With the place itself. Do you know what I mean? Like,
I think it's a really good title because it sounds like an Oasis like live album or something like that. It just sort of reminds you of this sort of grim, grey, like up northness that we would associate Manchester with, when it's absolutely nothing to do with that in real terms. But then when you look at that place in the movie, it's reflective of his state of mind. It really is. That's deliberate. If it was in Malibu by the sea, it's not going to be the same movie, is it?
Was it just me that was really thick in terms I didn't actually click on that he was moving back to where he used to be with his ex-wife till like miles into the film? Was that made really clear and I was just completely oblivious to it? Like obviously it tells you eventually, but like quite clearly, but I just don't know if it just went right over my head at the start.
I thought it was pretty clear, like.
Obviously, it doesn't really matter it doesn't really matter until obviously you get further into it, and he's like, I can't go. I need to go back and all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, what's he talking about? But I just wonder if you were all.
But he doesn't implicitly say that that's the reason for it. It's just shown in scenes and like flashbacks and stuff like that. He doesn't say I can't go back here.
Sorry, the one thing I was going to say as well is like when you said about Casey Affleck's character, how like obviously he's like really it takes his time speaking all that kind of stuff, and then the only time that I obviously see him sort of speeding up is when his nephew sort of has that panic attack, and he's kind of all over it. So like he does care about him, but he just finds it difficult to sort of portray his emotions. I thought so. I think obviously that scene being added sort of showed you more a different side to him instead of him just being this person. Because some folk could watch it and being like, go and hurry up and all that kind of stuff, like you said about how when you're watching, but when you see that scene, it does obviously hit home what his feelings are really towards his life and the people that he's responsible for too. I thought.
I think it takes away all the sort of glamour of depression that you normally see in cinema. You know what I mean? And I can imagine a lot of people watch this going, and it's a very interesting thing. I thought, from what a few of you guys mentioned at the start, is not really feeling any sympathy for them, right? So I do think that in real life, when someone probably is suffering for this level of depression and you maybe have to socialise and interact with them or they're part of your life, that subconsciously we would all go, fuck, what a fucking dick. Like, this guy, I don't have any sympathy for this guy. Why is he being such a fucking wank? Wasn't he going about fighting in that? I would maybe feel sorry for them. Like, that's really common conversations you'll hear. And I think this film sort of it doesn't give you any of the redeeming qualities of him that much. You can tell deep down that he probably wants to be something like wants to be better, but it doesn't portray it in that sort of airy-fairy sort of way where he's just a wee bit sad. Like, he is a full-on cunt to deal with. Like, people do not want to be in his company. Like, that woman fancied him, one of the young lassie's mums fancied him, and she after half an hour, she's like, "Get this cunt out of my fucking house."
What I enjoyed is how uncomfortable the movie made you feel while I was watching it. Like, that scene with them interacting made you feel uncomfortable. The scene where the wee boy goes to his mum and his new stepdad, and it's the most creepy, uncomfortable environment I've ever seen. And I was cringing like fuck watching it, but it was one of those ones where you didn't want to take your eyes off it because you're like, what weird thing's going to say? And the bit that made it funny to me though is the fact that he gets an email from the stepdad on instructions on how it's going to go going forward, and it just originally I was like, why is that scene even in this movie? Like, what sense does that make? But it was just it was really uncomfortable, and it fitted in really well with the rest of it, to be fair.
He's like a really famous actor, isn't he? The like as basically would be his new stepdad.
Is it Matthew Broderick?
Matthew Broderick.
Yeah.
Inspector Gadget.
I thought that was odd that it was such a minor part that he had in it. Yeah, like, I don't know.
I actually saw him being interviewed not that long ago, and he doesn't get offered parts anymore. He's married to someone really famous. So
Sarah Jessica Parker.
So he basically stopped working when they had kids. So he raised the kids while she was in Sex and the City or whatever.
So that's what he says.
He says.
Right. It's like if somebody says, I don't want to star in movies anymore, I'm quite happy like painting houses or selling burgers. Right, I'll no bother.
Oh, just like Ben,
absolute
I don't really
nonsense.
like football white.
I bet, like, I don't like football.
Yeah.
Matthew Broderick, he peaked at Ferris Bueller's Day Off. He peaked at Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Yeah, he's like a huge actor. I see when you mentioned that he doesn't really get offered stuff. He's in like he does like voiceovers and stuff like that. And you're like, you're done, mate. You know what I mean?
He was
actually, yeah. Sorry, Daniel. When you go,
I was just going to say he was a very youthful looking man. I think most of his early parts were like that young sort of high school.
No, he's like silver on top, and that probably doesn't.
Just look, his face still looks the same, but just with like a wee fucking crow's leg, and he's got good hair. That's it. He's no aged, like, and his eyes are still young, so he's not going to pass off as.
Also, I wanted to add as well that the nephew's mum, obviously she's off the rails and stuff like that.
Right.
She's in Boardwalk Empire, and she's also like massively off the rails in that show as well. So it was like the kind of ideal role for.
What did she do with her son in Boardwalk Empire, Dubs?
She doesn't do anything to her son, does she? She pretends that another. That's never made implicit that is what happened.
Well, all she does in this shit is fall asleep when we're fucking fanny out for her son walking in anyway.
Yeah.
Did she have a fanny?
I like the fact that was meant to be this traumatic experience, and I'm like, there's probably fucking every person in this podcast probably had fucking worse stuff than that happened to them.
100%.
That's just the last fortnight.
Let's bring Sean, and Sean's been notoriously quiet for this. Sean, what did you think of this?
I did quite enjoy it. After the kind of twist about his kids with the fire, it kind of dragged on a bit. A really, really depressing film, but I'll read out the wee bit that I put in the chat for you earlier on because you wanted me to. I did really enjoy taking like a 2.5 hour break from this depressing world by immersing myself into another depressing world. It's why we love films. It takes your mind off depressing things. It is really depressing, and you were talking there about how you didn't have much sympathy for him. Like, did you not have any sympathy for him in terms of, obviously you can talk about his personality of just him being a cunt, which is probably all brought on by the depression, like him just starting bar fights and stuff like that. He's probably just want to feel something. But in terms of like the fact that like he's had a night with his pals, steam him, goes to get more drink, comes back and effectively his actions have killed his kids.
Mm-hmm.
So like for that point, like I did feel really sorry for him, and like I was kind of wondering like what it was that had happened to him, obviously leading up to that point, and like I never seen that coming, because obviously you've seen the flashback with his kids and his wife, and then obviously it's just him basically just obviously fucking so depressed. I just assumed it would be something like, I don't know, like an affair and she's fucked off. I never expected it to be what it was. So that kind of took me by surprise quite a bit. But then after that, I just felt it was really, really slow, and I didn't really feel like there was much direction in the film, which I suppose is the point, because it is a film solely about a man dealing with depression. And I suppose when you're like that, you don't feel like there's much point and there isn't any direction in your life really. But I did kind of struggle after that to get through it. I thought Casey Affleck was really good, as I've already kind of said already. I think it was Daniel that said that. What was it? He said it's the best.
Depiction of depression.
Yes, that's exactly what I was going to say. Aye, which I agree with. I can't really think of any other kind of film like this where it is as kind of hard hitting as this. But I did thoroughly enjoy the first kind of, maybe the hour mark, maybe 45 minutes to an hour mark, and after that it did kind of lose me a bit, and it was really slow. Like, there wasn't really much of a kind of story to tell. I'll use the word plot, but again, I suppose a film like this, it can't really have a plot. There isn't going to be like a happy end, and he's not just going to snap out of it and do better and find somebody and move on and get married and have kids and all that. It's not really the point. So I think that's more my problem than anything else. But I did quite enjoy it actually, which sounds a bit fucking bizarre saying it, considering it's a film about the most depressed man in the world who's basically killed his kids. I did. You were talking there about how like there was no charges or anything came of him. This made me. I'm not clued up on fucking law school and ins and outs of criminality and all that. But would there not be a case of like manslaughter for something like this?
I think that they've maybe ruled like they're thinking he's maybe suffered enough. Like manslaughter, I think still implies intent to an extent. Or this was like I said, is literally and he does that every other night the Waynes have been alive. I don't know, it's been cold enough to put the fire on.
I think there's a fire lit in every house in that place basically. So they're probably just like this has got the potential to happen. There's absolutely zero evidence that that it was deliberate, which they say unless something changes. But you are still kind of after it. You're like, you sure?
It's quite scary as well.
Because like small town vibe.
Aye, that as well. Like the one cop who's have to deal with can't be asked for the paperwork. She's like, it's just an accident, mate. You need to get out.
But it is quite scary because we've all been in that position where like you've been drunk, you're not in full control of your actions at all. And I don't imagine any of us have got fucking open fires in the house, lobby gas central heating or electric heating, whatever. But it's quite scary that just something as small as that, like forgetting to close the shutter on a fire.
That's why they don't have them anymore. They're fucking lethal.
Aye, but even what the equivalent would maybe be now, like you get in smashed and go to make yourself a fucking rolling bacon or something, and turn the fire pan and forget to things like that is maybe the equivalent.
That is scary as fuck. Like, that kind of stuff does kind of like see, especially fires and all that. For some reason, I've got total always need to check that like a lot of stuff is off. Like, especially like see fucking Laurie and her straighteners, man. It drives me up the wall. Like I did actually. She was wanting a pair not a pair, a set of straighteners for Christmas, and I consciously bought ones that have like that function where they just automatically turn off.
Aye.
Because she's always like. She's never actually left them on when we went out, but see every time we go out, right, if she straightened her hair, we'll be out the flat, down to the car, and she'll run back up and go, I need to check if my straighteners off. And I was like, did you turn them off? She's like, I think so. And I was like, well, what do you mean you need to go and check then? But it does fucking scare the shit out of me that like a house fire, it fucking terrifies me. Like
I remember one time Leslie, she used to use straighteners a lot more than what she does now, and we had this like sort of like quite tall like chest of drawers, and she would sit them on top of it, and they would be like on top of something so that they wouldn't burn. and so they would be like cooling down. And there was one night where I was doing like my usual like ranting and raving about some like insignificant, and I just like I was standing next to the chest of drawers, and I went like that and like kind of leaned on it as I was making a point, and the straighteners had only been off for like maybe like 5 minutes or something like that, and I've still got like a small mark on my arm where like the burn was. I lifted my arm up and they came with it. Like it was absolutely horrendous.
I'm sure was it your lusted Kyle that on holiday when we were in
Lusted,
Saturn straighteners.
And I would get drunk during the day, getting ready to go out at night, and Lusted had put the straighteners on, laid them on the bed, and then fell asleep.
Mum needed to know at least anyway was here.
Lusty needed straighteners. What fuck?
Just those 3 strands.
15 years ago, he still had 10% of his hair then.
I think I was around maybe like 7 or 8 at the time, but I can vaguely remember this part. But basically, the story is that in the old house that obviously me, mum, dad, my sister lived in, they had it was just a washing machine, just a fucking standard washing machine, right? And that basically caught fire. And I don't remember like there being a fire or anything, but I can just remember like hordes of firemen coming and like my mum grabbing me and my sister and like running like out the house down the street and all that. I had no idea what was going on, but I always remember that. So I'll never do like a washing or anything like if I'm not in the house and I've got the fucking like kitchen door open and living room door open so I can hear it and smell it if anything's happening. It scares the shit out of me.
It is weird that we've got so many electrical things that we just fucking take for granted, eh? Like a million things into a fucking extension, like extension.
It's not safe. It's not safe.
No, it's not safe. You're told not to do that.
Like you're fucking leaving phone chargers on overnight and all that. Like it's so dodgy. Like it could just fucking catch fire at any point. You're just basically relying that it's been fucking commissioned and all that correctly and stuff. Like
I think it's better now, but back in the day, like my similar fire story was when we first moved into our house when I was maybe about 5 or 6 when we first moved to Snesmuir. Those old council houses still had open fires with chimneys. There was very few that still had it, but we still had it. So what had happened, we'd moved in and my dad was like going and taking up all the old like carpets and all that, and you get all the gripper strip, the wood with the wee nails coming out it. Just chucked in the fire, just like fire, right? But this fire obviously hadn't been used for years. So what had happened is inside the chimney, all the soot in that had like built up for years. So the whole thing went up in flames, and there was a neighbour came to the door. First day we moved in, right? Very first day, new neighbours in the fucking street. Somebody's knocked on the door. There's flames coming out your chimney.
Nice to meet you.
The house had got on fire, so the fucking all out in the street, we all had to get fucking piled out, and the fire brigade came out. The whole street was out watching. Like that was fucking entertainment for the night. There was about 40 cunts out just looking at the house on fire.
My gran and granddad had one of those in their house as well, and like, see, when I think about it, like I used to just, if I was like cold or that, I would literally sit like inches away from it when it was like blazing, like and to the point where you could like feel it fucking like no melting in your back, but it was like searing. Like you think to like yourself, like what the fuck was I thinking, or what was the people that were maybe like babysitting me thinking, either just letting me sit there. Like it's crazy.
Well, let's bring this back on track to the movie from our fire stories. Hunter, you got anything more you want to say about Manchester by the Sea?
I'm going to just kind of echo what's kind of been said. I do agree this, as much as I don't want to be giving Casey Affleck credence for his role in here, that it is very well done, and you've got to tip your hat. It is very well acted and performed. What I would kind of say, kind of to what Daniel was saying, like about how there's no a happy ending with this example, but I like it's kind of something similar I'd kind of have discussed on the Sopranos podcast. Kind of we're discussing that show that sometimes things just come to an end. That's it. You read a book,
100%. Yeah,
this is it. There doesn't need to be the Hollywood ending. You're literally just seeing a snapshot. You meet this guy one day, you get to see into his life for a few days, and that's it. It's over. You've got to, how you decipher and whatever. But I think this is this, and I think that's why, because it's just, again, we're only seeing a bit of a story here. It's still Paul, you're getting everything in a nutshell. The significant why, how is he as he is, and how is he coping and dealing with everything since, again, these tragic events that have happened in his life. And I mean, the only thing that I did kind of struggle with is a pothole, and again, it's maybe just my perception of it. Obviously, kind of now knowing when I've been kind of doing the trivia research that there has been some deleted scenes. So he gets acquitted, whatever you want to call it. He gets told there's no charges going to be pressed against him. He's then went from trying to grab. Obviously, I don't know. I'm just somebody. I don't know kind of how people would act and cope in these situations, but you just hear that like other. So he's meant to then grab basically a police officer's gun and time shoot himself to try and end it again. He wants to. I don't know, feel the pain. So obviously, he feels responsible. He needs to be punished or dealt with in some way. That I don't know if it's just an American thing, a societal thing. I'm not saying and sort of saying we'd go and then just buy a gun and go do it, but you think that needs to be punished.
There would also be some kind of care after it. Like, there would be a level of care. If you've just tried to kill yourself in a police station by taking a police gun, there would be something that they would do, like some kind of counselling or.
Yeah. Well, he was staying with his brother at one point. They didn't show the inside of the house, I don't think, at any point, but they kind of showed him leaving his house.
Yeah,
and then he said something like, "If I don't hear for you, like in the exact amount of time that it takes you to make that drive, I'm going to call the cops." Well, I think obviously they must have just said straight away he's going to come and stay with us until he's
compos mentis. It says one of the deleted scenes is the one where he is on suicide watch. So it would obviously. The point I was getting was, would he maybe then go and commit another crime just so he feels some form of punishment? But even then, it's like nothing again is going to add up to.
We don't really know how much time passed when that happened, but I mean, it's a valid point, to be honest. You kind of see him getting the gun, and then that's the last time like it kind of makes any sort of, because it's not even really a gesture, is it? It's not a gesture. He really, if he had cocked it like quicker, he would have done it, no problem.
He clicks it. He does.
The safety was on.
Safety's on.
Yeah, but he probably never fired a gun before, so he wouldn't know right away how to do that.
But I get that, and also that point could then also be the. And also, but we're giving the film brownie points and praise here for not going that Hollywood way. But that's the sort of thing where it's like the turning point, like the sliding doors moment. Like usually in these types of films, where it would be, that's where like his life could have ended. Look how he's ended and became a better person or whatever on the back of it. So again, for me, I'd say that was my only real sort of plot hole in a sense that I do think there was more we could have went down. Not quite to coin what we were christening Sopranos back in the chat back in the day, which was Guns and Anxiety, but there's something more that could have been done. I think maybe showing him dealing with it, because all you get is how his behaviour and depression is affecting those around him. And what you want he must have been, as you say, getting some form of therapy or counselling or whatever. That it'd be good to maybe it could have depending on how the script was written, it could have gave him a more humane, likable traits to his character if you maybe saw some of the stuff, and all you're seeing is the retaliation from what he's bottling up and not being able to share. But again, because of his inability, the works the other way is what I'm meaning is because his inability to open up and share even just some basic conversations with people, that how would you expect him to do it with, again, a complete stranger, to open up these deepest and darkest feelings of how he's trying to cope with all this?
See, on that point, I actually think it's a very purposeful choice, right? Because every scene is how other people interact with him when he's feeling this way. Like, I don't think this film was so much aimed at people who are depressed to be inspired by or anything like that.
No, definitely not.
Which most films about depression are, right? They're like, you can get whatever. This seems to be more aimed at people who are surrounding someone who's got depression. Like,
or so being in the other person's shoes rather than the people. See how your behaviours affect someone with depression.
Aye, that's the way I took it. That because you never see him just on his own very often. It's always these awkward interactions that he's forced into. And the way that I took it is that this is not a message for people with depression. It's a message for people who have depressed people in their life. rather than, do you know what I mean? And I think that's what makes it
Yeah.
quite unique and different. And I think if it went down to him going through therapy and all the stuff that you don't see, do you know what I mean? You don't see those things when someone's depressed. Like, that's the stuff that happens behind closed
That's
doors.
very true, yeah. Aye.
This film never shows you any of the stuff that happens behind closed doors. Even when he's doing all his mundane tasks, most of it's when he's in someone else's house.
Yeah.
And he's still some sort of interaction. It's how other people are seeing him. And I think that's what I took from it anyway. I think that's why I like this so much, is that it's giving you that idea that it's not just easy to deal with someone who's depressed like that, and it's a fucking struggle, and it's a nightmare. And you're probably going to hate them. Most of the time, he's going to hate them. Like when he goes for the job interview, and the wee woman comes out and goes, "He's not working here." He'd burnt all his bridges in that town by who he was as a person, essentially, like what he's having turned him into. So that was why I think it was a purposeful thing. That's a really good point that you brought that back. Done very much on purpose.
Has anyone got any more thoughts or feelings about this movie before we head off to some trivia?
I was just going to ask, Dubs, you had said you had an anecdote that you wanted to share.
Yeah, I mean, it's quite like, it's kind of been ruined by the fact that we're meant to be like doing these like separately. But obviously, I did start the podcast by talking about how there is like links with the previous movie that we discussed and that I chose. But there's also like, obviously you've got the non-linear like elements of the story, but there's also a moment when I think it's when is it at the wake after the Casey Affleck's brother dies, where the kids are like sitting on the couch, and I think they're discussing movies, and they're talking about Star Trek at one point, and then they mention the Matrix at one point, and it's really just mentioned, and then that's the end of it. But obviously in Memento, it's Joey Pants and Carrie-Anne Moss who are in the Matrix as well.
Yeah,
and it reminded me, and obviously I'm not going to name any names, but there's a person that we all know who said that they masturbated to something that happened in the Matrix.
Who done that?
Well, based on the pornography search history we've seen recently, I think I could take one guess.
Yeah, it's
not that person.
No.
Oh, you're me saying that. I have no idea, because I'm not in. I'm assuming this is a
I'm
draft.
not sure either.
Yeah, you're in the chat when it got mentioned as well. I think it's only Bonsley that's
I
not
know
in the
who
chat.
you're talking about.
It's and now this is shocking because I kind of like I like to think of myself that I'm quite clued up with movies. I've actually never seen The Matrix before. It's one of those films that it's been talked about so much, and I've seen bits of it so much that I've never ever actually sat down and watched the movie. And I just like the bits that I've seen, I don't understand which part of that movie someone has thought to themselves, yeah, I'm really getting turned on by. Yeah.
I can't think. The only thing I could think is vaguely sexual is there's sort of like a scene where Keanu Reeves is like rebirthed from an egg, as if he's like being reborn again. Something thinking over that would be fucking hilarious. Like,
no, I was thinking I've seen that bit, and obviously it can't be that bit, but I was guessing there was just some sort of sex scene with Carrie-Anne Moss.
No, there's no sex scenes with Carrie-Anne Moss, is there?
I think they got after each other. That's about as graphic as it got.
Maybe a kiss at most.
We were talking.
I'll do a bit of a WhatsApp search, and I just typed the word wank into the search bar of our WhatsApp group chat, and it's came up. It's been said 105 times. So,
remember we had the stuff about the blue pill and the red pill.
Yes.
Yeah, and it was in reference to that. That was when that got mentioned because someone had said that they openly said that they had tugged it off watching that movie. And that's where the blue pill element came, obviously, because blue pill has obviously the connotations of Viagra also, but it's also mentioned in the Matrix as well.
I want to know. I don't know who it is now. Will you tell me off air? But we'll also on as well to trivia.
Kyle's phone seems to go back like a long time.
I can remember who it is now because the said picture of joke that we used in one chat then appeared in the other chat.
The blue pill thing?
Aye.
I'll find it, guys. Let's get some trivia going on before we name and shame somebody.
Yes, I know. I
was wanting to talk about like the most embarrassing things that you had masturbated over, but you're so dumbfounded with me mentioning that that I'm just like, let's just
You've
not go
also
down
got
that
a story
path.
that
That's
you
a
want to
great
tell.
topic. That's an excellent topic. What's the weirdest thing you wanked?
Well, you have talked about that quite a lot on other like podcasts of you know,
Wanking a
like what
lot.
the old material that you used to have to use
Right,
and
I've
stuff
got
like
to
that.
say,
Because
right,
it wasn't just like porn at your
And their fingertips.
right.
yeah.
Before I answer any question here, I've already had a row with my missus for saying rude stuff on this podcast the last few episodes.
I think the whole point of it is that you're meant to forget that anyone's listening, and it's meant to be just like a natural discussion.
Yeah.
Like, so I don't know.
I'll be honest, right? I've never been a material wanker. I think because I never had access so much as I was younger. I've always been an imagination wanker.
You've been in a lot of relationships as well, so that it's not really needed.
Very often. So
yeah, you said that, but there's people like that. There's loads of, you're not the only one that's like that.
I think even when I'm on my own, like completely single, I would only ever wank if I was completely bored. Boredom is what makes me want to wank, rather than stimulation.
Is that not why they made cornflakes?
Apparently, cornflakes were created as a masturbation. What's the word? Something to stop you. Something to stop you masturbating, essentially.
There you go. If you need a wank, have a bowl of cornflakes.
Aye, Mr. Keller.
That should be their slogan.
Aye.
I'm sure it was at the start. That was generally what it made for.
That's going to be the title of the podcast.
Need a wank, have a bowl of cornflakes.
Why go for a cock in your hand when you can go for the cock on the box? Kellogg's cornflakes. Other brands of
cornflakes were part of the anti-masturbation crusade that was going through America.
Aye, I knew that. Aye, that's funny. Loads of things are made for the thing that they don't intend to be used for.
Yeah, well, I mentioned Viagra earlier on. That was like a heart thing,
yeah,
was it not?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then they found out that you had a rager for like 3 weeks.
It says here that the reason that one of the things they started it because masturbation was detrimental to your physical, emotional, and spiritual well-being.
Wow.
Yeah, I can't
That's
confirm.
quite the opposite. Only calories I burn these days.
You need to get wanking more often, Kyle.
Tell me about it. I'm not no young chappy anymore.
They could call this podcast PornFlakes. That would be great. Oh God.
Dobbs, I feel like you've got a story that you want to share.
About what?
Your embarrassing example.
Nah, because I listened to you discussed it on a podcast earlier, and I was kind of like the same. It was like you'd have to find it was just like stuff now that you wouldn't even have a second thought, like music videos and stuff like that.
Right.
There's no titillation like going on whatsoever. Stuff like that.
They've loaded up YouTube for a chunk now, have they? Get music video.
Oh, this is before YouTube. But yeah,
I
funny.
used to get Kiss, the music channels on Sky Digital.
And if you liked some songs, like it used to be the radio, you would record the radio if you liked some songs, and then the next thing would be you would record the music videos if you liked the music or you wanted to rip the heat off it.
A favourite of mine as a maybe 12, 13-year-old was any Janet Jackson video, but there was one in particular where Janet Jackson had like her tits hanging out and all that. Yeah, that was my favourite.
I think that was a common occurrence. Like, because they fell out at the Super Bowl as well, didn't they?
Yeah.
That wardrobe malfunction.
Yeah.
As an adult, it's weird because she's basically Michael Jackson's face with a female body. Like, it's fucking thinking back. But
yeah, she looks more like Michael Jackson than what Michael Jackson does, basically.
A difficult wank, that one, but
we managed.
Not impossible. Let's get some trivia in then. Let's keep Hunter out of trouble.
Right, so as you can't imagine there's no any light-hearted trivia, so I'm going to go in for try and get some film buff trivia on the go here. So, firstly, while portrayed as a working class and blue-collar town, Manchester by the Sea is actually a very, very upscale and affluent town. So, the actual place itself, I've found some other shithole in it. I will just call this Manchester by the Sea.
But you don't know where it was actually filmed, no?
No, I did say it in it somewhere. It's somewhere in. It's in the same state, but I can't remember the actual
It looks like fucking. It looks like somewhere in Dakota or something like that. Like it really looks like a
No,
farm.
I think it's still in
basically
New
depressing.
England or whatever it is. It is still in New England, but I can't remember that.
Massachusetts.
Aye, well, that's all splitting hairs for me. It's on the same ballpark.
America.
Northeast America.
Yeah.
It's the first film distributed or co-distributed by a streaming service, in this case Amazon, to receive an Oscar nomination for Best Picture.
Nice.
With the support of Casey Affleck, the scene where the meat falls out the freezer was filmed after 1 a.m. and cast and crew went into triple overtime to capture the sensitive and emotional gripping scene with Lucas Hedges, who prepared for the scene, followed a friend's advice to try and not talk to anyone for an entire day and see what that does to your emotional life. Hedges did that, and he was so torn up inside when it came to play the scene, it ended up just flowing really easily and got better and better with every take.
Wow, it is a good scene actually. No one mentioned it earlier on, but that's the only time you see the nephew or the son of the guy that's died. It's the only time you ever see him emotionally sort of get anywhere. Do you know what I mean? Because I'm glad. Another thing we've sort of no mentioned is he does a really good job at being what a 16-year-old would really be like.
Yeah.
Kind of like cocky and like kind of bravado and stuff like that. When you strip it all away, like he's crying over like a roast chicken and it falls out the freezer.
Exactly. It's all just for show. I mean,
It's kind of like one of those. Obviously, he's that age. He's obviously just said he's got a front on. He needs to still show up. He's still got all these people, his bandmates, his two birds, or whatever. That's a hard life, bae.
The band are terrible as well. The band are so bad. It's like it's obviously deliberate. They're meant to be bad, but they are so bad.
But
they're all fucking terrible. But they all pick on the drummer every time.
When in reality they're all equally bad.
But the drummer's just it's always a drummer. That's it. They're always a drummer that gets the boy.
Yeah.
It's like the cunt that had to go in goals when you played football when you were younger. That's what the drummer is in a band.
Yeah. So Matt Damon was initially set to direct and star in the film. Back in 2011, Damon, concerned about Kenneth Lonergan's horrible limbo, wanted to do something nice for his friend. So he sat in Lonergan's Manhattan apartment and pitched him an idea for a script about a New England handyman who ends up with custody of his dead brother's teen son. A story Damon thought would be right up Lonergan's dark alley. Now, take from that innuendo what you want. The idea for Manchester by the Sea, however, was actually hatched by John Krasinski, who had shared a nascent pitch with Damon in 2011 whilst filming The Adjustment Bureau, in which his wife was starring with Matt Damon. They actually both grew up in Massachusetts. It kind of goes in, so it's actually the premise for some actually goes all the way back to an off-the-cuff conversation between John Krasinski and Matt Damon.
Wow.
And it's evolved into this. So I think Matt did Damon's acted. Did he direct this?
I saw his name. His name's associated with it. It came up in the title.
I think he was on, but so it's kind of the same with Krasinski. He's had a finger in the pie essentially, so he's on as executive producer.
That's probably what we were discussing earlier. They attached him to get money for it, basically. That's all that's happened.
The guy that directed this has a cameo as the guy that slags off his parenting.
Aye. Also, yep, I did remember reading that now. Aye.
Of all the folk that he gets an argument with, that guy deserved it. He was an annoying cunt. Fuck off! It's fuck all to do with you.
See, because I know we're coming to the end here, but see the scene. That scene happens, and the next scene is you see that guy walking along the street a little bit, and then Casey Affleck's trying to get in his car really quickly. I thought he's going to spin that car round and go for him, but they just nothing happens.
Yeah. So the last bit of trivia, so this is kind of going to touch on kind of where we're. Did we discuss the Casey Affleck being wrong and on or off air?
It was off air.
Yeah.
Right. So, kind of touching back on that. So traditionally, the previous year's Best Actress Oscar presents the current year's Best Actor Oscar. So the year before Casey Affleck won it for this, Brie Larson had won it the year before. So she was then obviously due to present him with his Oscar when he'd won it. However, when he's went up to accept it, it's actually so her reaction is muted, She stood with her hands by her sides while others were applauding Affleck. And some were actually not at all. The audience gave him a standing ovation. So Brie Larson later confirmed to Vanity Fair that her comportment was a deliberate statement of her displeasure at him winning. Larson had been an advocate for victims of sexual assault, while Affleck was charged with various counts of sexual harassment, assault, and intimidation during the film, as we discussed, as I'm Still Here. And then, coincidentally, off the back of that, he then turned down his then opportunity to present the Best Actress the year after.
Yeah, I knew that bit that you just said there, that he didn't present the award, which I was like, but you're more than fucking, you're up there like a fucking greyhound when you were getting your aim.
Exactly.
But you wouldn't even bother your ass to go and present one.
You should have had a bowl of cornflakes.
What a dick, though, eh? Like, he does get, obviously we're praising his acting and stuff like that, right? But what a cunt of a guy. He just comes across like, and he's probably, he only like got his break because he's fucking Ben Affleck's wee brother.
Exactly.
Like, it's nepotism. That's just what fucking happens, man.
Because there's one on that kind of long spiel that was talking about with Matt Damon being involved. It's like, oh, he ended up then giving the role to childhood friend Casey Affleck. Now, Casey Affleck was the wee guy that you got dragged to fucking go out when you were going to hang about with his brother. Oh, go and take Casey Mays. Take Casey Mays. Like, oh, fuck that wee dick. They probably make them fucking day shit for them and that.
Oh, happy days, guys. Happy days. Well, listen, let's get to the scoring for this. Another long episode coming in this week. So thank you very much for those that are sticking with us coming through to the scoring. All two of you. That's we appreciate you being here.
That's no including like us. Like even we'll know probably last that long. Listen back to it.
I think it's only Daniel that listens to every episode, and me occasionally, or Hunter's missus gives him a row for.
So who edits it and stuff then?
Me.
Zero editing.
That's it. There's the edit, and it just up as raw as
it just goes in. It goes in raw like a raw chicken as it falls out of the freezer.
Yes.
Well, let's get to the scoring. Dubs, welcome to you first once again to give this movie your scoring out of 5.
I've got a score written down, and I'm going to cheat, and I'm going to slightly upgrade it. I'm going to give it a 3.5 just because of what we've discussed. I feel like maybe I was slightly over the top and harsh with my own scoring initially when I watched it. But 3.5. It was a really good movie. And I mean, we've covered pretty much everything, the reasons why. So 3.5 for me.
3.5 for Dubs. Burnsy?
I'm going to follow him, just based a wee bit better than last week's or 20 minutes ago's film we went over. That's my reasoning.
Hunter?
I'm going to make it 3.5. Just that ball hair better than last week's, but no quite pushing into the elite.
Is anyone going to change up here? Let's see. Sean?
I'm going to give it a 3. It would have been higher, but as I said, it kind of lost me a bit the second half of the film.
I'm going to go a little bit higher, guys. I'm going to give it a 3.75. The biggest thing that made me realise that I was enjoying this movie is I had to pause it to let the dog out, and I looked and there was only 15 minutes left, and I was gutted.
That's a very
That's a telling fact that if I must have enjoyed it.
Daniel?
I actually paused the film and weren't doing anything else whilst it was on tape.
I didn't. It's funny because I never had anything else on. I sat and watched this one but I'd started with Football Manager on, and then it came up, turned it off. Daniel, my pictures time was slowed down throughout the day for a couple of hours.
I'm going to be the outlier here then for a change. I'm giving this a 4.5. I think this is excellent. Like, I really think it's good. So 4.5 for me.
4.5. Right, Bengal.
That's a 3.63.
3.63. So what this puts in, it puts this movie directly between Uncut Gems at 55th on our list, and just below that would be Me, Myself, and Irene.
I think that's pretty fair place for it. Good movies.
Taxi Driver's also joint with Me, Myself, and Irene.
We got a lot of shit for that. Like,
I think we'll get that for these two scores as well, to be honest.
For Memento,
Definitely.
a lot of the fucking
Memento's definitely got some sort of Instagram virgin's favourite fucking film, definitely.
Aye, but I think we like dispelled a lot of the myths of the movie and our reviewing of it, to be honest. I would say.
Happy days. Well, Dubs, 2 weeks of Morons reviewing movies. How's your experience been with us?
I enjoyed myself more than what I thought I would. I've kind of ranted over the top easily, but that's kind of like how I roll. So, and I know for a fact that once we stop this, she's going to be like, let's not have this guy on again ever.
Well, that was going to be my next question. If we were to invite you back into another time when you got to select the movies, would you want to?
We'll talk.
We'll talk fees. We'll talk to your manager.
Yeah.
And we'll line up a swap transfer.
We'll fly it up the flagpole and see if anyone gets wood.
Well, guys, thank you very much for sticking with us and listening to us with our special guest Dubs for the second week. That does bring us to the end of this really exciting episode of Manchester by the Sea. And as Morons do, bid you farewell.
Do you think somebody came up with Frosties by finishing in their cornflakes?
Sorry I don't speak moron as well as you, but let me try.
What the hell is supposed to do, you moron?
It's a moron. That's not against the law.
Gun, you fucking moron.
Dressed up like Batman.
Because he is Batman, you moron.
What are you, a fucking moron?
You moron. Drop dead. Moron.
Whoa!
Up here, you morons.
Stepping morons like yourself.
Me down, you moron. Hey, moron.
Bid you farewell and good luck, morons. Bye.